So, graphing linear functions, horizontal and vertical lines. So if you remember, a horizontal line looks like this, and whenever you have a horizontal line, the equation is going to be like y equals whatever that number is. The y-intercept is going to be whatever number the b is, and that's where it crosses the y-axis, and then it's just a horizontal line there because it has a 0 slope. A vertical line is going to start with x equals. So like x equals a will be a vertical line at wherever a is on the x-axis. So if you remember how to graph these equations, we are graphing 4 of them. Y equals 4, x equals -2, x equals 0, and y equals -1/2. So what I want you guys to do is use these explanations here again and your previous knowledge. We just took a quiz on this on Thursday to graph these 4 equations. I'll give you a couple minutes and then we'll go over them. And the graphs are kind of confusing with the weird lines. Each graph, these lines are your y-axis and this line is your x-axis. Yeah. So the points that you're putting these all at are all correct. This one's negative. This actually has to be opposite of that. But did you draw the line? No. Okay. So all of these have to have lines. So the point is correct, and since y equals, it's a horizontal line. So you draw the lines where they are. Okay. 30 more seconds. All right, so let's start with the first one, y equals 4. So as you can see from the explanation above, anytime it's y equals, it's a horizontal line. On the y-axis, you will find 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You will make a point there. And then you will make a horizontal line because this is a line with a 0 slope. Whereas x equals is a vertical line. So on the x-axis, you find -2 and make a point, and then you make your line vertical like this. Letter C is x equals 0. So this is an interesting equation because 0 is just here at the origin, and because it starts with x equals, and that is a vertical line, when you go to make your line here, you're really just folding out the y-axis. So the x equals 0 would just be a vertical line here at 0 on x, which is actually the y-axis anyway, which is interesting. And the last one is a -1/2. So what you would do is go down half of a unit below the origin, so like about right here. And then this is another horizontal line halfway through. Not exactly at -1. So that's just a refresher with how to graph horizontal and vertical lines. I'm going to clear this and move on to the next page here, which is just a refresher of how to graph using x and y intercepts. So, to find the x-intercept, if we are using x and y-intercepts to graph, what you would need to do is find where the line crosses the x-axis, that's the x-intercept, and where the line crosses the y-axis, that's the y-intercept. To find the x-intercept, you replace y with a 0 and then solve that equation for x. And to find the y-intercept, you do the opposite. You replace the x with 0 and solve for y. So these four problems, these types of problems, were just like the types of problems we had on our quiz. So this is just a refresher. To find the x and y-intercepts, I'm going to do the first one with you, and then you can try 2, 3, and 4 on your own. To find the x-intercept, like it says, you take the y and replace it with 0. So when you find the x-intercept of the equation 3x minus 2y equals 12, you're taking y and you're replacing it with 0. When you take that and replace it with 0, what ends up happening is the entire thing goes away. Because 2 times 0 is just 0, and 3x minus 0 is just 3x. So the whole thing can be like wiped out almost. Then you're left with just the equation 3x equals 12. To solve this, you will easily just divide, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So on the quiz, and just like today, if I said, well, what's the x-intercept? The x-intercept is at 4. You can interpret this as just x equals 4, or you can interpret it as the ordered pair. X equals 4 on the x-axis, you would go over to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and make a point. And that point, that ordered pair, is at 4, 0. For the y-intercept, you do basically the opposite. I'm going to do it on this side. For the y-intercept, you take the equation 3x minus 2y equals 12, and you take x and you turn that to 0. Well, when you take this and you put it to 0, the whole thing goes away. So you're left with just the little equation, negative 2y equals 12. You divide by negative 2, and you're going to get y equals negative 6. That means that this has a y-intercept of negative 6, so on the y-axis you would go down to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down to negative 6, I mean. And then once you have these 2 points, you have your line. So this line has an x-intercept of 4, 0, a y-intercept of 0, negative 6. To graph this line, we would just connect these 2 points, and that would be it. A lot of you did such a nice job on the quiz showing me the 2 points you used for your x and y intercepts and then connecting those points to make your line. I was very impressed. What I want you to do is just review this idea with numbers 2, 3, and 4. I'll give you maybe like 4 to 6 minutes, and then we'll go over them. Are you guys done? We need more time. All right, looks like we need a couple more minutes, so take a few more minutes. If you are done, you can take a little brain break. Please make sure you are working and doing these problems. All right, so let's go over these answers here. Number 2, to find the x-intercept, we turn y into 0. So basically, we can cover over the y, and then we solve the little equation 2x equals 8. We solve this by dividing by 2. We're going to get x equals 4. So actually, it's the same exact x-intercept as the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. We make a point here. Then, to find the y-intercept, we do the opposite. We make x turn to 0. And this one, we actually don't have to solve at all. It just tells us automatically that the y-intercept is 8. So we go up to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It just fits. We make a point, and then we draw our line by connecting those 2 points all the way through the graph. And then number 3, finding x and y-intercepts. To find the x-intercept, we set y to be 0. So we will basically cross this off and solve the little equation 2x equals -2. We do this by dividing by 2, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. So on the x-intercept, at -1, on the x-axis you would make a point there. Then to find the y-intercept, you set x to be 0, and then you solve the little equation 4y equals -2. When we go to divide by 4 for this one, this ends up being a fraction. It simplifies to being -1/2. So on the y-axis, halfway down from 0 to -1, we would make a point here and then connect these 2 points to the best of our ability, and that would be our line. Number 4, to find the x-intercept, we set this to be 0. We solve the equation 3x equals negative 6. We divide by 3 like this. We get x equals negative 2. So on the x-axis at negative 2, we make a point. To find the y-intercept, we set the 3x to be 0, and we solve the little equation negative 4y equals negative 6. This is also going to be a fraction. Whenever you divide by a negative and you have a negative divided by a negative, you're going to want to simplify that to be a positive. Negative 6 divided by negative 4 is a positive 6 over 4, which simplifies to be 3 over 2, or 1.5. So if you go to the y-axis, halfway between 1 and 2, you're going to put a point here at 1.5, and then that would be your line. And then I didn't realize there was a fifth one. We will go over it just in case you guys did this one on your own. Number 5, 10y equals 20x plus 30. This one wants us to find the x and y intercepts, but this one's equation is going to be a little bit different. To find the x-intercept, we set y to be 0. When we do that, we end up getting this equation, 0 equals negative 20x plus 30. This equation was not set up the way the other ones were, because the other ones were in standard form, so that when you set one of them equal to 0, you automatically had an equation that, like, this times x equals a number. This one, you actually have to solve it a little bit. To solve this thing for x, we would subtract both sides by 30, and we would get negative 30 equals negative 20x. And then when we divide by negative 20 here, we're going to get x equals negative 30 divided by negative 20 is going to be a positive number, and it's going to be a positive 3 over 2, which is 1.5. So on the x-axis at 1.5, which is halfway between 1 and 2, you would make a point there. And then to find the y-intercept, we also are going to have to take the original equation, and then we just set this x to be 0. This one's a little bit easier. We don't have to do this subtraction. We just get 10y equals 30. All we have to do for this one is divide. So we divide by 10, and 30 divided by 10 is 3. So on the y-axis, 1, 2, 3, we make a point, and then there is my line. All right, we are going to be doing one little last thing today before we call it a day. And we're going to be skipping around a little bit because we have seen some problems like this. And some of this is just a refresher, so we don't have to go through every single page. So if you look at the next page, it's actually really hard to see anything on here. It didn't print out right at all. So we're going to skip this whole thing, the front and back. So we're going to skip this entirely because I can barely see the numbers. And we're going to head to this page. So if you look at this page, this is, again, the same thing we just talked about, x and y intercepts. So we already know this. We don't need to go over these notes again. We already practiced these. We don't actually have to practice these again. I want to actually go to this page behind it because there's a couple word problems that I think that are good for us to take a look at. So we're going to end today with number 8. So just this one word problem, actually. So I'm going to read this out loud. It says, the school band is selling sweatshirts and baseball caps to raise $9,000 to attend a band competition. Sweatshirts cost $25 each, and baseball caps cost $10 each. The equation they give to you, you don't actually have to make it up. It says 25x plus 10y equals 9,000 models this situation where x is the number of sweatshirts sold and y is the number of baseball caps sold, which makes sense. It says sweatshirts are 25 each. So they have 25x, and x is the number of sweatshirts, plus they say baseball caps are $10 each, and y is the number, so it's 10y equals the total, 9,000. It's asking us first, in letter A, to find and interpret the intercepts. That means find the x and y intercept, and what does that mean? And B, it's telling us 258 sweatshirts are sold, how many baseball caps are sold. And then C, it wants us to try and graph this equation. So I want to give you a few minutes to get started on this. I don't think you're going to have time to do the whole thing on your own. I'm going to stop you probably at like 9:06 so that I can go over it with you. So take like 4 minutes to get a start on this on your own, and then I will finish it with you and go over the answers together as a group. So you're going to work on number 8. Start with number 8. right, so hopefully you got a head start on this on your own. I'm going to go over the answers with you so that we can make sure that we get this done before the end of class today. Letter A says find and interpret the intercepts. So that means find the x and y intercepts and then tell me what it means. So the x-intercept. We're going to take the equation up here, 25x plus 10y equals 9,000, and when you're finding the x-intercept, you completely cross off the y number. So then you solve the equation 25x equals 9,000. So these numbers are way bigger than the last ones we were working with, so you're going to want to use your calculator. You divide by 25, and 9,000 divided by 25 is 360. All right, so we'll just write that and then we'll interpret the next. The y-intercept is the opposite. We set the x to be 0, so the original equation, we take that and basically just cross it off. And then we solve the little equation 10y equals 9,000. We divide by 10, and we get the y equals 900. Now, don't forget, x is the number of sweatshirts sold, and y is the number of baseball hats sold. So if we're looking at these numbers here, the x-intercept is 360, which means that this crosses the x-axis at 360, 0. The y-intercept is 900, meaning that it crosses the y-axis at 0, 900. Interpreting the intercepts really means take these numbers and relate them to the word problem. The word problem is about selling sweatshirts and baseball caps. This ordered pair, which is the number of sweatshirts versus the number of baseball caps, means that you can sell 360 sweatshirts and no baseball caps, and it equals exactly 9,000. And that's because each sweatshirt is $25, and 25 times 360 is equal to $9,000 in total. You can also sell 0 sweatshirts and 900 baseball hats, and it equals $9,000 because each baseball hat is $10, and 900 times 10 is 9,000. So that's what interpreting the x and y intercepts mean. Letter B says, if 258 sweatshirts are sold, how many baseball caps are sold? So they're telling us 256 sweatshirts are sold, and we know that sweatshirts is x. So the variable for sweatshirts is x. So using the original equation, which is 25x plus 10y equals 9,000, they are telling us that 258 sweatshirts were sold. So what we would do is take 258 and replace it in for x, and then the equation becomes $25 per each sweatshirt, and we're selling 258 of them, plus 10y equals 9,000. We're going to see how many baseball hats were sold then. 25 times 258 is 6,450. So 6,450 plus 10y equals 9,000. Solving this equation for y, which is the number of baseball caps, I would subtract both sides by 6,450, and 9,000 minus 6,450 is 2,550. And then we're going to be dividing this by 10, and we get y equals 255, which means 255 baseball caps were sold. That would be the answer to letter B. And then letter C is asking us to graph the equation. We don't have that much time, but I want to make sure I can squeeze this in here. So x is the number of sweatshirts, and y is the number of baseball hats, or caps, whatever they want to call it. And we know that we can graph with x or y intercepts. So we would need to get the x-intercept to be 360. Just because of time, it's going to say 360 is here. And because of time, it's going to say 900 is here. I would never usually do this. But then I could graph it like this, and that's how you would graph. So have a great day, guys. I'll see you tomorrow morning.